Welcome to Queerosphere, the podcast where me and Cry are doing the most for you.
Today, in particular.
Yeah. Today we're talking about drag
Race.
Drag race.
Drag and drag race.
Yeah.
We're talking about drag,
But first,
but also we're talking about drag race. But first, I have a question for you.
what's your question?
Lou, what would be your drag name?
Okay.
What's your drag name?
Okay, please don't at me. I'm going to call it the Sativa Slayer.
The Sativa Slayer?
I was like, okay, Laganja Estranja has the best one.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I personally am very fond of Karen from finance.
Okay. That's fucking good. Yeah. So Sativa Slayer.
Sativa
Nice
Slayer.
to meet me.
Okay. You're a sativa and you slay. Yeah. You smoke, obviously.
Probably on stage. Yeah.
Yeah. Out there. Okay. You're performing Your Sisters with Laganja.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Mine was actually assigned to me. Ramon came up with it. It's
Ooh.
X Tina Crime.
Oh my god, I love that. It's really, really cute.
Tina's spelled with a Y.
Oh my gosh.
T-Y-N-A.
Of course it is.
X Tina Crime.
I love it.
It's me as a drag performer.
I want to follow this up a little bit. What are you performing? What are you doing? What are you wearing?
I don't know. I'm doing my best alien drag, obviously.
Nice.
Like alien clown drag. Like, she's a woman. I want tiggle bitties.
Tiggle bitties. Fuck yeah.
Never had big tits before, so I want big tits.
Yeah. I want to look like Ron White up there drinking or smoking. Like, I know this is really bad.
Whom?
Yeah, exactly. But looking like a really fucking like, I'm thinking like not only just Ron White, but like, okay, I'm starting this over.
Okay.
Because I'm laughing at myself now. If I imagined me on stage as Sativa Slayer, not only am I like drinking and smoking on stage, but I'm doing like a really elaborate comedy routine that kind of doesn't make sense. Like you really have to follow it from like beginning to end to get there with me.
I would be a comedy queen, obviously.
Yeah.
And a look queen.
Exactly. I think we're on the same page here. The comedy and looks are where it's at.
Yeah. I would be comedy and I would be looks. I'm probably not a great lip syncer because I can't dance.
Oh. I think I can roll this one out. I think I can fake it till I make it with that one.
Yeah, I can't dance, so I'm not a great lip syncer, but I would be out there making people laugh for sure.
Yeah, hell yeah. I would make sure that comedy is on my routine. I want people to laugh at me. I think like part of like my thing is that I like when people laugh at me. Like I like that gratification it gives me.
Love that. Yes,
so
100%. Yeah, I'm not doing flips and tricks or anything, but I promise that I'll let you have a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would be a good party host. And you know what I always thought would be really fun? Being like a wine...
I'd be a good MC, I think.
Being a wine sommelier in drag. Like you work at a wine bar and you're like, here, try that. But you're like a fucking drag queen and God, straight people eat that shit up. You know what I mean? They'd be tipping you extra. They'd be like, fuck yeah, they just pulled out the stops for me. That's what I want.
I do consider myself someone who does drag. Not a drag performer, but someone who does drag on the basis. I'm a non-binary person. But I will go out there in full drag, creating a fantasy, like everything that you want out of what I think women look like. Yeah.
I have not, I don't appear that way. I don't ever, even that's my goal. But I love that you describe it that way ever since we rekindled our friendship, ever since you were like a fungus in drag. I was just like,
that's exactly what I am.
I was like, that is a perspective to have.
Yeah, because gender is performative for me. I don't have one, but I think that but I do understand the spirit of drag. Mm-hmm. Which to me is, okay, I'm going to lay it down a little thick just to begin with, because we're talking about drag, which is something that I absolutely love. To me, drag is 100% a love letter to women from the people who most wanted to be like them and could not.
Yes.
That's what drag is in its essence. It was people historically most famously and most well recognized as gay men,
right,
who were showing women exactly what they thought of them. Powerful, goddess-like fantasies. They they saw a power in womanhood that they respected and so wanted to reflect.
Yeah, emulate.
Emulate, yes, that's a great word for that. And that to me is exactly what I do when I do drag, because I do respect human women.
Yeah.
A lot. And I do think that their voices and what they do is so powerful, and I want to show them that from someone who is very squarely not a woman. They tried to make me one, but they failed.
Yeah.
They tried their best, but I wasn't cut out for it.
No,
so
that's how I feel too.
Yeah.
Like, not cut out for the team.
Yeah, I didn't make the team, but that's fine. I didn't want to make the team.
Still powerful nonetheless.
I wasn't invested in it, but it's still so powerful, and I also want to give my thanks and my respect and my regard. And so when I say that I do drag, that's what I mean. I mean, I do drag.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool perspective, and it just deconstructs gender like easily. It's very digestible, palatable. It's just like, well, what do you think like we're all fucking doing here? Like, you know what I mean? It's very like duh to me.
Drag queens know exactly what we want, which is gay and stupid. That's exactly what they've been doing forever.
And I know, like, to just kind of carry the thought a little bit further, the one thing that I think is cool about deconstructing gender is, like, drag queens do that with the utmost respect for women, but they also, like, yeah, like you're saying, drive people crazy in the most liberating way. They're like, oh shit, we don't have to prescribe to these gender roles. And then all of a sudden there's just like this, like, straight women cannot get enough because their lives are so unsatisfied, but like they can't get enough of this thing because we're deconstructing something for them. And I love that.
Because they're seeing themselves they're seeing themselves in a way of how other people genuinely think about them, how people genuinely feel about them, an actual reflection of what is witnessed by queer people,
right?
Generally, and they're showing them, and it's almost completely opposite of what society has shown women they are.
Exactly.
Their entire lives.
Yeah. It's so special. Like, I can't imagine, but like to be, okay. The first drag show I ever saw this is wholesome content. Please stay tuned. I was advising for a nonprofit that gave kids scholarships, and one of the kids in our group really badly wanted to be a drag queen when he exited the program, and we were trying to find a way to get him into a school to fulfill the program's requirements, and that was like cosmetology or makeup or whatever it was.
Costume and wig design.
Right. So we were trying to get him into like those kinds of things, but he was the first drag show I ever saw. He was 16 and showed me something that I, as a queer person who was like 20 something at the time, had never really experienced before. To me, I feel like this experience with this kid was so special because he showed me that deconstruction of gender that I'd never seen before. Yeah. And a 16-year-old kid was so, and I hate to say brave, but like duh, because to be 16, to put yourself out there like that on a stage for people who like,
I mean, I have stage fright, so just
I mean, it's so special. Like, it was just it warmed my heart so much. Like I don't know if this kid is, you know, currently not a kid anymore, but I don't know if he's doing drag currently anymore. I bet you he is somewhere in Worcester performing in a club somewhere, I hope.
That's excellent.
And that was my first experience of drag, and I think that just it broke it down so easily for me again, right? Yeah. I'm somebody who kind of sometimes needs that, but shout out.
Yeah, absolutely shout out. And drag is amazing because it's not even confined to that, because is that one part of it? Yes, but there are completely other parts of it that go to the deconstruction of gender, not just like women,
right,
but just gender altogether. I mean, there's a huge, the club kids were huge on androgyny and showing people how to be fashion but not be identifiable,
right,
which was very important. So you can see, and as drag grows, we get to see it internationally now, and seeing the differences between how it's performed and how it's revered and how people do drag in other countries, even non-English speaking countries.
Right. It's one of those things that I love about the queer community is that we do bring culture into a world that thinks that queerdom shouldn't have culture or like doesn't have culture for some reason because
it's erased.
Yeah. And I think that this specific performance like brings something to queerdom that like is unmatched, and it's exactly what we're talking about. So
and that's not to say that I don't understand the sort of I'm not naive to the realities of what being a drag queen has been, especially in regards to sex work.
Right.
It's a lot of drag queens are also people who do sex work, and there's a reason for that, and that is that they are they're not, it wasn't seen as a valuable profession and art form for
until
really long,
recently.
Until very recently. And even now people are still, they have to, you see drag queens talking about it all the time. They have to turn tricks in order to make enough money to continue doing their art.
You know what is something
they're
that
tied.
Yeah, the one. Okay, so something kind of controversial yet totally brave that Trixie Mattel did in a YouTube video recently is told people that they should not become drag queens because it is so like that, like where people have to turn tricks, and if you're not going to turn a trick, you're not going to make a buck. And I sat back and I was like, what is the like repercussion for the underground drag scene that like people are still turning tricks? Like they
absolutely are.
And I felt like it was very controversial of Trixie to have done that because I'm like, well, you're sitting there on your crowned horse, like I don't know,
the bitch made it.
Yeah, the bitch made it. And to tell your fans and to tell little drag racers or drag queens or whatever that they shouldn't do something because there's some blockage to success, like capitalism. Sorry, honey, that was capitalism.
Yeah, I definitely think that you have to be realistic about it. You have to know what the foundation was built on. And a lot of that has to do with not only sex workers but also trans women.
Yeah.
I mean, drag queens, but more specifically trans women started the Stonewall riots.
Yep.
Which it was the very first Pride. Pride was a riot. For people who don't know, rising up against your government works. It always has. It's the American way. Pride started at Stonewall, and they were riots. And they were drag queens, but they were also trans women. Because drag has very often been a place for trans women to hide in plain sight.
Yeah. Which I think is why I also think it's very controversial to have said something like that, because I think it's like one of those things where you can't erase queer history here and say that like you can't experience drag in that way.
Yeah, but instead of saying don't do it, maybe call attention to it, and so that we can end that in an unsafe practice.
Yeah. Well, here's your education, Trixie.
Yeah. Here's Trixie Mattel. If you want to sit down and have a conversation with us,
we'd love it. Anytime.
If you want to sit down and have a conversation with us about it, I'd love
about
to
capitalism. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
You
and your communist friend.
You and your capitalist Barbie ways. Literally capitalist Barbie, Trixie Mattel. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I want to celebrate drag for everything that it is, but it's always important to be reasonable and to understand the history of things. We get to celebrate drag today the way that we get to celebrate it because of the hardships that went through in the past, because people were willing to turn tricks and continue to do so until they quote unquote made it. They were willing to stick in the system and keep up doing it. And I want to say, I don't want to be insensitive by saying being willing to do it. They suffered through all of that. And they managed to do it in spite of all of that.
Right. That was more of that resilience that we were talking about on the self-love episode.
Because I would like to say that those things are, I don't agree with them. I don't think they should be happening. I would like to call attention to them so that they never happen again. I want us all to be realistic about the reality that these things still happen. drag performers are, and especially trans women who are drag performers, especially of color, trans women who are drag performers who are of color, are at risk of being killed in some parts of the United States today because people are getting away with, because people are in these situations where, of course, they're going to take the risk to turn a trick because they need the money.
Right.
Like, those are still things that happen today, and we need to acknowledge them so that hopefully they can stop, so that we can find ways for it to stop.
I don't know if drag becoming more mainstream is like the way to like a path forward, but it almost seems that way. Like the more mainstream that we kind of make this, the more, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, representation matters.
Right.
People are less likely to be hostile towards queer people if they see queer people. If they're desensitized to them, if they're being told for the first time ever that they're not harmful. Because that's what happens. People they have the belief and the interpretation that trans people are harmful, and that's why they need to get rid of them.
Right.
Because they threaten, because they're threatening to how straight you are. They're threatening to the sanctity of your marriage.
Whatever the case is.
They're threatening to your own gender for some reason. I don't get it.
Whatever the toxic trait that you've built up in your own head about why trans people are attacking your own life, like whatever. Yeah. That representation is important, and that's kind of what I see sometimes when I think of drag. Just the aesthetic of it, like, brings something so different to the mainstream performing table.
Yeah.
And it's
anytime we have exposure to it, anytime we get representation, we get more rights, essentially, because visibility is important. If people can see that you're suffering, it's harder for them to turn away from it. If you're out there talking about it, it's harder for people to ignore it.
And I think it's really hard to see in the juxtaposition of what's happening currently, where we have all of these states' rights issues about trans rights, and then we have all of this mainstream drag things. Like, we have the Halloween drag extravaganza thing happening, and to me,
Monet and Ginger.
Yeah, honestly, Ginger. Anyways, but like I guess what I'm saying, the juxtaposition between these things, it's like, oh, it appears so different, but they are so linked and have been for so long.
Yeah,
and I think ultimately it seems sort of like heroic, in my opinion, that we have the mainstream keeping up as much as they do.
Yeah. And I also just want to slide in here real quick that as you can't separate the sex work that drag queens and trans women do from drag itself, from drag culture, you can't separate that from sex work as its own issue, because a lot of the things that affect it are issues with sex work in legislation.
Right.
And policing. So there's a crossover there that makes it also complicated, that you can't address the sex work that drag queens do, and you can't demonize it, and you can't say that it's like a terrible thing without acknowledging that sex work in general needs work to do. And I'm not against sex work. Sex work is real work. If that's how you're out there getting your bag, bitch, that's how you're out there getting your bag. You know what I mean? And I mean, like, to further the point though, it's like, I want it to be regulated and safe.
Right. Like, if you had the legislation, if you had the regulation, if you had that safety that the sex workers felt, then you wouldn't have to feel that, like, almost defensiveness against, like, you know, what you believe about it. It's like, okay, well, if we keep these people safe, then we're not worried about the work anymore.
Exactly. And I'm not a sex worker, so I don't have a lot of knowledge necessarily on, you know, what people who do sex work are like, what their lives are like, and what their, you know, what's the demographic of people who do sex work. I'm not necessarily linked to that community.
Right.
So I'm not going to go out there and say that, oh, what the problem is that we need to stop sex work from happening. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that you need to understand that the way that sex work operates currently makes it dangerous for people to be doing it. And therefore, because drag queens are put in a position where they are more likely to engage in sex work because of the type of art they perform, that's how it's connected.
Yeah.
Like, you need to leapfrog all of those things to understand that's what it is. We see how they're connected, and there's a lot of problems that need to be addressed.
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to demonize sex work. I would never do that to you guys.
Well, yeah, and there's no like, that would be the point of exactly why you're bringing it up, not to demonize anything. Yeah, I fully understand where you're coming from, and I think it's really important to acknowledge, especially like you said, the history of the trans women and the trans women of color who have been resiliently fighting the good fight for however many years we've been doing that in retaliation to all of this, like,
since at least 1969.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say something too, which is that, like, when I think of the sex workers that I've come into relationships with, is like, I lived with somebody who had a hard time finding housing, and that was just a very simple problem, right? It's not like there's nothing really that dangerous about it other than, like, you're houseless and you're trying to find somewhere to live, and by me being queer, this person felt so much more safe with me. Like, I wasn't going out doing turning tricks or anything, but this person knew, okay, this person's going to fight for me. This person's going to be with me. This person's going to allow me to pay them all in ones for the next, like, 6 months. And I let them do that. I let them, hand me the cash, like, the way they needed to do it. Made sure that they didn't need to be put on a sublet. I didn't care about any of that stuff. What I cared about is that I had a good roommate, and they were a good roommate, and we became really good friends after that. And like, that's the experience. Like we're not talking about something, like, very crazy, but it does get crazy.
Yeah, it does occasionally get crazy.
But that's the reality, I guess.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. Now, now that we've discussed in depth the reality of it, I'm going to go back to telling you just how much I really love drag.
Yes.
Because, okay, listen. For starters, you can't talk about drag these days without talking about Drag Race.
Right.
And Drag Race is kind of like it can be controversial.
Yeah.
I would like to say that occasionally it is controversial, but it's also an ever-changing thing.
Yes.
Like, there are so many different perspectives on it. There are so many different things that Drag Race has done, and there's so many different things that RuPaul specifically has done that need to be addressed when you're talking about Drag Race.
Right.
Has it been manipulative and unfair towards drag queens who have performed on it? Absolutely, it has. Mm-hmm. Is there a point where maybe it felt like RuPaul's intention was to be taking advantage of the talents of other people to escalate his own wealth and fame? Absolutely, it does.
Mm-hmm. That's Hollywood for you.
That's Hollywood for you. Yeah, I don't want to take away from any of those things, because some of those accounts that I've heard are pretty traumatic.
They're atrocious. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty traumatic turns of events, and I would never want to discredit that.
Yeah.
But there's also something to say for the fact that what RuPaul realistically did was turn around and create an entire industry for other drag queens. Mm-hmm. RuPaul made it and then was like, other drag queens are also making it now. Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the thing now, honey.
That's exactly what happened. And were the first couple of years really rough, and were the intentions probably a little more selfish than that and different, but it definitely feels now that that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it feels like the intentions are definitely, obviously to create good TV.
Yeah.
At the expense of other humans, because it's reality TV, and by the way, that's an industry that does that.
Right.
But also it shows us so much more drag than I ever could have imagined in my life.
Right. How many seasons are there now?
There are so many seasons. We're about to go into season 14, I believe. 14 or 15 of the regular season
of the American show. Of
the regular American season. And then All-Stars 7 just finished.
Yeah.
Which is another separate series. Mm-hmm. Canada's Drag Race just crowned its 3rd queen. The 4th season of UK's Drag Race started releasing. They have Drag Race Down Under is doing its 2nd season. Drag Race Thailand has like 7 seasons. Drag Race Holland, Drag Race France just had its 1st season.
Where isn't there drag queens now?
Drag Race is global.
It's like, a global
Drag
phenomenon.
Race itself has launched into so many other careers and opportunities for drag queens around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I literally just saw the Vivian live earlier this year.
Yeah.
Winner of season 1 of UK's Drag Race. She was here in Spokane.
Yeah. And you've seen some pretty cool shows in
Keena
Spokane.
Mean was here too.
You saw who was Halloween last year ago.
Raja.
Fuck yeah, Raja.
I saw Raja.
The honorable.
She winked at me. I almost died. She was here.
Yeah. And can I say something?
I spoke to Denali.
I have to clip that one.
I'm so sorry. I spoke to Denali. You know what I mean?
You want to hear something really sad that you're going to hate when I say this?
Yeah.
And I'll leave it on the podcast. Everybody can hate me when they say that. So you remember I told you about that first drag show I saw?
Yeah.
Last drag show I saw.
Oh. I mean, that's not your fault.
It's not my fault. I've been poor since then.
I know your life. It's not your fault.
But I will say that, like, Drag Race.
We could have seen Jinx Monsoon if I had realized she was going to be in town, because I had a
I would
coupon
have laid
to
down my
go
life
to a free event at the comedy club.
I would have laid down my life to see that. But when I saw the price of the tickets, I did lay down my life. I said, I don't think I can do this.
Jinx Monsoon was here.
Right after being crowned queen of All Stars 7.
She was here.
The All-Star of All-Stars.
I can't believe it.
Visited Spokane at the comedy club. It would have been an amazing time. Jinx, how was it? Jinx, if you are listening, tell us exactly how your show went. If you enjoyed Spokane, what that vibe was like for you. I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah. And the amount of drag that I get to experience, that I personally get to experience because of Drag Race, is very special to me and very incredible to me.
Yeah.
And I have seen the show through some of its. I think that I started. The first season I ever saw, I think, was season 5, Bianca's season. Bibi Zahara Benet, Tyra, Raja, Sharon Needles, Jinx Monsoon. Season 4. I started watching season 4, Sharon Needles season. God, yeah, Sharon Needles season was the season that Sharon Needles was crowned was the first one that I saw. You're right, because then Alaska was season 5, and that's when Jinx was crowned. Because Roxy Andrews could not stand Jinx Monsoon.
No, they were really
fighting.
They were fighting some mad fights.
So
Two bitches.
I mean, like, that's where I entered in, and Drag Race used to get nasty, especially in Untucked.
Well, yeah, I haven't been.
Oh my God, Willem.
Graced with Untucked yet, but I don't have
no, but
the full capacity to like watch as much TV.
Yeah, the point is that Drag Race used to be nasty, and that wasn't even. Oh my God, I have now seen. I didn't see it until after, but I've seen season 2 now. The season that Tyra Sanchez on, Raven's season. Oh my God, like, it was nasty. They were mean.
Yeah.
They were so mean.
You want to know one of my favorite mean queens is fucking Tatiana.
Tatiana?
Choices.
Tatiana was in season 2. Tatiana was there. Yeah. They were fucking mean. Drag Race isn't like that anymore.
No. It seems like they're more of a community, more of a bonded group of people when they go in there.
They really see it as a sisterhood now. Like,
sisterhood of the traveling drag.
Yeah. But like, we just, as that compared to like season 2 compared to season All-Star 7.
I know.
Where it was like, I realized that a lot of it was production, like post, like they did it in post-production.
The editing.
Yeah, blame it on the edit. But we saw nothing but positivity from that season. We saw nothing but them showering the queens in praise, which they very much deserved. And also, they gave us a season where we got to see everything that they had to offer. They got to stay there and show us everything that they brought for All Stars, every single one of them. And that was very special to me.
Yeah. No,
I know that was probably exhausting for the cast.
Probably.
I know it was probably exhausting for all of you. Evie, thank you so much for being just so amazing and continuing to go out there and do it, even though I know that it was probably one of the hardest things you had to do because of her condition.
Right.
But they went out there and they showed us everything that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing.
All-Star 7 was incredible to watch. I mean, I didn't really sit down and watch the show, but I watched it through social media and certain episodes that I did see. And I especially love about drag is the fashion, the looks, but like this season was different. It hit different. I mean, the amount of serotonin that ran through my fucking brain, if that's what it's called, like every time I saw it look, I was like lit.
It was lit. Just so good. And the fact that it was really a season about celebrating people who had already won Drag Race. Mm-hmm. It was like a celebration of those people, really. And I mean, one of them got crowned and got $200,000, but also we got to see some of our most favorite and beloved people on Drag Race doing Drag Race.
Yeah.
And that was very special. Mm-hmm. Like, I never thought that I'd get to see Jinx Monsoon do Drag Race again. And Jinx Monsoon is very special to us here in Washington because she was from Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle queen.
She lives in Portland now, I think, but she was a Seattle queen.
Represents the Pacific Northwest in a way that like we sometimes don't get represented. Like
absolutely. And we love you and your many neuroses.
Your many neuroses and that narcolepsy you got there too.
Yeah. No, but Jinx Monsoon in particular is very special for us here because she's a local queen for us. And that's something.
Yeah.
That's definitely something. But all of them were so incredibly amazing.
Yeah.
There's a reason that they won Drag Race in the first place, and you can definitely see it.
Yeah.
I mean, we see a lot of Raja, but we got to see something out of Raja that we haven't gotten to see in 10 years.
Yeah, I think you made a point to me when we were watching it at one point that you were like, oh, Raja, the way that they talk about their looks or the way that they kind of digest their performances is really special, the way that they kind of verbalize what they've done. And I just was like really taken aback by that. I like watched some of what Raja had said about her own stuff. And yeah, like she is so special to have on the show to just listen to like that. She's a relic. I hate saying that, but like it's true. Like I don't just some of the things
old bitch from an old time.
I'm gonna not live that one down. Raja would punch me.
No, but you're right. It's just so much of what a lot of modern drag does is very referential to pop culture, and Raja creates references.
Yeah, it's world building in a way that brings you there. And I was going to say Raja because of the performances and the way that the way that she talked about them, but also Monet Exchange and just the looks. Like Monet Exchange to me, when I see that purple look, this is the one I'm thinking of right now, but some of the looks that Monet Exchange came with brought me the most serotonin, even though one of my favorite queens is Jinx.
Monet Exchange is so, what I love about Monet Exchange is that I cannot at all relate to her perspective because she is so black.
Yeah.
She is representing black culture.
Right.
That is what she's always aiming out to do. And I can't intrinsically understand those references as a white person. But I do think that it's so beautiful to be able to see and hear her explain it and to like put it into context to be able to see those things.
Yeah.
Like she brings amazing looks that would never cross my brain. And I know it's because she's repping black culture and I just as white people, I can't.
Yeah. I think that's even why I meant to say, like, over Jinx, what I see from Monet Exchange is just severely different because the representation that she brings is...
Yeah. Shea Coulee, too. The references...
freaking crew... Oh, my God. I can't even with her.
Like, I would say that
I have...
Monet...
Can I say something? I kind of have a crush on her.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to make out with Shea Coulee.
I would say that Monet Exchange's references are a very, like, real street... version of like black culture from New York specifically. And I think that she's very proud of that and I am so grateful that she does that because those are references, a level of like
comedy too.
Yeah, those are references I would never see and I feel like Shea Coulee often brings a very more culturally African, more
it's very elegant.
It's not like it's anything more than what Monet brings, but it's definitely it's definitely trying to be rich.
That's what I meant by the
or
elegance.
not even trying to be. It's definitely rich.
It's rich.
Shea-Coulee, it's fucking rich. It's not trying to be anything. It's rich.
Yeah.
Monet Exchange is bringing, Shea-Coulee is bringing very rich. That's what it is.
She brings rich.
And Monet Exchange, I think, is very purposefully trying to bring not necessarily rich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would say like street style. Like
street
style.
street
I think that's a
style.
comfortable thing to say because it's a very different type of style. So I appreciate both of them. I think they both pulled out every single stop, and I don't know. I'm so torn that like I know Jinx won and should have won, but I'm so torn that Monet Exchange had it too in the bag.
Yeah.
That's just a personal opinion.
Yeah. I think that really what it is that really what it is about Jinx Monsoon's performance is that Jinx does drag in such a holistic way that drag is just a means really to show off her talent, for her to communicate her comedy.
Mm-hmm. She's so fucking funny.
Because that's her personification of herself. That's exactly who she wants to be, it feels like. And she's just such a strong comedian that literally everything that she does is just impossible not to love. I mean, the bitch deserves an Oscar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Damn. Yeah, I do know what you mean. I think that
she's never uncomfortable. She's never not leading every scene. She understands every character. She hits every moment. She's an expert comedian.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why I love her so much.
Why isn't she hosting Saturday Night Live right now?
No, that's for real. For real, why isn't she? Can we get her hired there, please?
Like, I don't understand. Because she is probably one of the best, most natural comedians of our generation.
Yeah. And to bring queer representation to that is just even more incredible. Yeah. All hail.
Yeah. Listen, this has become an episode. Actually, no, I think that I have very well gone into the depths of drag.
I think you've articulated everything very well, and how I would have expected you to, because this is the stuff I wanted to hear from you, because I know you, I know what you think about drag, and I think our audience needed to hear a little bit too.
Drag is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think drag is very important to the world. I think in the perspective of queer people, drag is very important. I want to remind you once again that we have pride because of drag queens and because of trans women who are drag performers. Okay? Everything that all of the rights that we as queer people have today, that we have fought for today, started there.
Yep.
That's who built the foundations of our revolution. And I won't let you forget it. I will never let you forget how important drag is to queer history, to history, period.
If Cry had one job in this life, it's that.
Yeah, if I have absolutely one mission in this world, it is to make sure that people understand how important drag is. Because it is very important. And it not only shapes who we as queer people are allowed to be in society, it's something that we as queer people have complete control over.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that we have had complete control over, because the only people who, I won't say the only people this day and age, but the people who do drag are generally queer people. And drag is our most forefront representation, really, for queer people, especially in the age of RuPaul.
That mainstream part of it that we were talking about before, for sure.
Yeah, because representation is important. Okay, listen. Spokane has drag. Spokane has had drag for years, and Spokane has very big drag now. Not only do we do events, I've mentioned several times that drag queens come here to perform for us. I've seen at the Globe. I have seen at when their Jinx Monsoon was at the Comedy Club. I mean, and 9, they have them there. there's a lot of places. In fact, Nine and the Globe have local drag shows that happen every week. I mean, drag brunch on Sundays. I believe that. I know that there's a karaoke one that I believe is with Ariana D. Spanik. I know that Nova Kane is the MC for the drag shows that happen on Saturday night, and I believe drag brunch and maybe drag bingo. I think that that's a thing too.
Yeah. I think you can just go on the Globe website and search, and then they'll bring you up a week's worth of drag events, like, honestly.
Absolutely. And like the Globe has hosted in the summer. They had the Ganja Estranja here.
Yeah.
Doing a cruise in Coeur d'Alene.
God, that had to have been so fun.
Oh my gosh. And so it's not just about the big performers, though. We have local drag queens here who do local drag. God, off the top of my head, Hannah Mia Joint is a really great drag performer, kind of like a spooky aesthetic, kind of punk.
I've seen
that.
a lot of punk and spooky come from Spokane, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a vibe.
Spokane's a pretty punk and spooky
Yeah.
kind of area these days.
Yeah. I like that. I dig that. It's very like, it's like Salem, but like not.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have drag performances at 9 as well, almost every weekend, I'm pretty sure. Go out and support your local drag queens.
And tip them.
They do amazing work. They also have, and they make it really easy. You can do it through Venmo too.
And they're basically carrying Spokane on their back right now. I mean.
Yeah, and our local drag scene is very diverse. We have lots of different performers. We have people who, we have very comedic performers who are all about just making you laugh, even during their lip syncs. They're always comical. We've got flips and tricks, and we've also got, quite a few people who are just down to do whatever weird shit you're into.
Honestly. Yeah. Spokane's cool like that because it's very open. Like, I think we're just very, like, open to the next possibility.
Yeah.
And drag, I think it just is another avenue for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we have drag here in Spokane, and wherever you are, you probably might have drag too.
Yeah.
Check it out. Don't be afraid to support your local queens.
Yeah, I can promise that in the next, like, year, one of my goals is to support the drag community a little bit harder than I have been able to in the past, just because I love it. Like, I do have the newfound love for it that I've had from Drag Race, but yeah, I think Spokane be doing the most. So
maybe trying it.
Yeah. Well, any final thoughts on summation? Anything else that you would like to talk about?
No, tip your drag queens.
Don't trip them. Tip them.
Tip your drag queens. That's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Queerosphere podcast on all things drag. I really hope that you enjoyed our deconstruction of gender and our appreciation for the art form, because we really had a fun time talking about it. So we will see you on social media or on our website. You can download episodes on our website, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and inquiries queerosphere@gmail.com. You can email us. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye.
Bye.
Woo.